With the latest agriculture news from across the state and nation, it's time for the AgNet News Hour from AgNet West. Here's your host, Sabrina Halverson.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning on the AgNet News Hour. Coming up later, the California citrus industry is holding steady with some growth in key areas. But to start today, we spent some time last week discussing the 32nd annual Pro Farmer Midwest Crop Tour. However, the genesis of the tour began more than 40 years earlier when it was first organized in the early 1980s by the agrivisor market analyst at the Illinois Farm Bureau. Todd Gleason went on the tour in 1989 and painted this audio mural of what it was, and for that matter, is still like, to spend hours on the road and in the field.
You know, they've got 60 more days to go easy, and you're getting into the frost state there.
The roundtable discussion. In the heartland of America, it is often a source of information, a way for farmers to keep up on crop conditions in their neighbor's field. But in a world where agricultural trade encompasses the globe, it falls far short of any real value. These people are in search of a broader perspective. They are floor traders from the Futures Exchange in Chicago, grain merchandisers from the United States, Japan, and Germany, U.S. Department of Ag officials, agricultural meteorologists, and journalists. The one common thread they share is a desire for more information on the American corn crop. But sitting around a table is not how they have come by such valuable information. They are agrivisor crop tour scouts and have spent the day on the road and in the cornfield gathering vital statistics on the 1989 corn crop.
Our starting spot with that one, we won't count that one, we'll start with this plant. If you'll hold that tape measure, I'll sing out when we got 17.5.
Tour host and agrivisor market analyst Jim Quinton is making corn yield calculations. To ensure randomness, the calculations are made the same distance into the field each stop, 36 paces in from the edge. He lays off a one-row strip, equal to 1/1000th of an acre. In this particular case, the test strip is 17.5 feet long. The number of plants in the strip are counted and multiplied by 1,000 to obtain a total plant count for the entire acre.
18, 19 ears and 1/1000th of an acre, so that's like a 19,000 plant population. For a random selection, we'll take the 7th, the 11th, and the 13th ear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Peel that down, look at the grain in that cob.
The number of ears on the plants are counted, and then once again, to ensure randomness, the same ear numbers from each strip are taken for the final counts in the yield calculations.
8, 9, 10, number 11.
In this case, the ear numbers are the 7th, 11th, and 13th ears in the test strip.
And now number 13. These are 3 randomly selected ears in the sample. And this one is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 18. So we got 18, 18, and 16. That's an average of 17.3. And the length of kernels on the cob here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
For the final
7,
calculation, the number of
10,
kernels
11,
around each
12,
and the length of each of the 3 ears are counted and
18,
averaged.
19, 20,
Then all the
21,
calculations are
22,
translated onto the corn
25,
yield calculator.
26, 27,
It is actually a slide rule.
30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38. Call it 38. And on the calculator then, if we use number of rows of kernels around the cob, it averaged 17.3. And the length of kernels we'll call 38. So we'll set 38 on about 17.3. Oops, that's down there. There we go. And we had 19,000 plants. That's 139 bushels to the acre, assuming that the kernel weight will be normal weight. That's what this corn yield calculator cannot do, is tell you whether the kernel size itself is going to be bigger than, smaller than, or about normal.
From here, it's another 20 miles on the road to the next stop. The car talk centers on one thing: crop conditions. Jim Quinton.
Okay, if dry matter accumulates in the corn kernel at the rate of 10% or 1% per day for the first 10 days, 2% per day for the next 40 after pollination, and then 1% per day for the final 10 days, That'd be 60-day span to have 100% dry matter accumulation from pollination to black layer formation. If this corn is pollinated on August 20th, and you got a killing freeze on September 30th, you would be at the 70 percentile of dry matter accumulation when the day the corn plant died. If that calculated yield for that spot was 192 bushels, that'd cut you down to 130 bushels of yield right then and there, overnight. That's all that field would have. And it'd be 130 bushels of some of the most ungodly crap you ever took to an elevator.
20 miles later, it's out of the car and into the field again, where we find just such a situation.
Depending on how these latest stalks pollinate, it could make almost 30 bushels difference in the yield of this particular field. And it's very, very late, and I think we have to question whether even the late stalks will make it before frost.
As you come up on the field from the road in here, this field looks like a good field. If you're just driving by it, I mean, it's probably 12 feet tall or better, and green as can be, and there's plenty of moisture out here. Throw you?
Well, that's the old windshield method. And the old windshield method is okay for vegetative matter, but it's not okay for counting grain.
Just over 40 participants rode in 8 cars on this 6-day, 3-day crop tour. What they found was a crop better than suspected, holding its own on the drought-stricken western corn belt and coming out in the rain-soaked east. One other note from the tour. We were reminded of a childhood rule. Look both ways before you cross the road.
Just a quick... Woo, baby! Give it a quick gander over here.
I'm Todd Gleason.
That was our NAFB colleague Todd Gleason from the University of Illinois Extension. He produced this story in 1989 while traveling on the 6th Midwest Crop Tour. You're listening to the AgNet News Hour. I'm your host, Sabrina Halverson. In today's National Spotlight, who gets the task of explaining crop insurance and risk management to various producer populations? Here's Rod Bain.
It's a partnership to educate underserved, small-scale, and organic producers on the importance of risk management and climate-smart farm practices.
It is vitally important that the USDA Risk Management Agency partners with organizations across the country that can connect producers with crop insurance education and farm risk management training.
USDA Risk Management Agency Administrator Marcia Bunger recently announced recipients of funding for risk management education partnership projects.
There are many producers out there who don't know about crop insurance, especially those who are new to farming, who have recently immigrated, or who have been historically underserved.
15 organizations, 3 national, 4 regional, and 8 state-specific, were awarded a total of $4.1 million. I'm Rod Bain reporting in Washington, D.C.
We'll have more with the RMA administrator later in this show. Canada's Labour Minister stepped into the country's railroad stoppage. Dennis Guy has more from Canada.
Just 16 hours after Canada's 2 primary railway freight lines locked out Teamster Union employees, Federal Labour Minister Steve McKinnon stepped in to order binding arbitration on the parties involved. For some weeks ahead of the deadline, management at both railways had been asking for binding arbitration, while the union had rejected government interference. McKinnon announced that he is invoking powers under the Canada Labour Code to direct the Canada Industrial Relations Board to settle the outstanding terms of their collective agreement. Early on Thursday afternoon, Federal Labour Minister Steve McKinnon said there was just too much potential damage to Canada's economy to allow the railway stoppage to go forward.
The impacts of the current impasse are being borne by all Canadians. We are asking the board to direct a resumption of activities and a return to work at the railways. We are asking them to begin the process of binding arbitration and to extend collective agreements.
Section 107 of the Canada Labour Code allows the government to refer a labour dispute to the Canada Industrial Labour Board to find a solution. McKinnon said he expects a resolution very quickly, but he stressed that this is an independent process. When asked when he thinks trains will start rolling, the federal labor minister would only say that he expects trains to start running again within days. Reporting from Canada, I'm Dennis Guy.
Fields in southwest Iowa are looking good late in the growing season. Riley Smith reports.
With some pretty cooperative weather during pollination, the fields in southwest Iowa are mostly looking outstanding as we approach the end of the crop year. Southwest Iowa Beck's agronomist Nate Meyer said that while some areas could use some rain, he's very pleased with what he's seen.
Pollination in fields I've looked at have been great. Soybeans look great. The areas that had water, timely and everything, phenomenal. Planting dates, everything looks great. We do have a few areas that could use another shot of water right now. Looking at the date, that first 2 weeks in August is kind of always key and critical to get another shot of rain on your soybeans to really boost those yields. So, but for the most part, I think everybody in Southwest Iowa is going to have a bumper crop this year.
While the recent heat helped keep diseases at bay, Meyer said the current temps are optimal for disease pressure, so scouting is very important right now.
The heat did have a good effect. A lot of times when we are that warm, it really slows down. We were sitting in those above, 95 to 100 degrees there. It really slowed down the progression of that disease. But it's also not great for corn all the time. So, but looking at our temperatures now, mid 70s to 80s, that's a little bit more of a prime temperature for disease. So I suggest people still be out there scouting. Obviously, this crop isn't finished yet. So, but as I've been out looking at fields, I'm hard pressed to find anything that's too concerning in my area when it comes to disease. Picking out a few things here and there, but nothing that's widespread.
Meyer said some warmer temperatures, particularly at night, would help the crops finish out to their full potential.
Highs in the lower to mid 80s are perfect during that time. So we can have this crop finished on time. Obviously, we have some areas that are very late planted from a lot of rains this spring. So anything that we can help those along is going to be great. So as much as I know people enjoy being here in the beginning of August and it's 75 degrees, the crops would probably enjoy it just a little bit warmer, especially at night.
That again was Southwest Iowa Beck's agronomist Nate Meyer. For more information or to get in touch with your local Beck's agronomist, visit beckshybrids.com. Riley Smith reporting.
That's today's National Spotlight. Now here's the livestock report. When will the very tight egg market start to ease? Gary Crawford looks into it.
When it comes to the production and domestic availability of eggs,
we are again looking at very tight supplies
and very high prices brought on by the loss of millions of laying hens due to avian influenza. USDA livestock analyst Shale Shagam says table egg production July of 2023 last year, 640 million dozen. This past July, down to 630 million, sending wholesale prices through the roof. However, Shagam expects things to settle down a bit in the egg market.
We're looking at table egg production for 2024 to be very, very close to the table egg production in 2023 at about 7.9 billion dozen. And then next year we'll see gradual increases reaching about 8.2 billion dozen in 2025.
And with more production,
we would expect to see egg prices decline.
Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
This is the AgNet News Hour. I'm Sabrina Halverson, and we will be back in just a moment with more agriculture news. Coming up in a few moments, we'll have today's This Land of Ours report, but first, more of the day's agriculture news. And with a preview of what you'll hear today on AgNet West, here's Brian German.
The 2024 California Citrus Acreage Report shows that overall the state's citrus industry is steady with some ups and downs. The report's based on a survey sent out earlier in the year asking growers to update their crop and acreage information. Lemon and mandarin acreage has been growing, with lemons going from 50,000 acres in the 2020-2021 season to 53,000 acres in the 2022-2023 season. The acreage for mandarins and hybrids has also seen significant growth, with an increase in bearing acreage from just over 63,000 acres in 2022 to nearly 65,000 acres in 2024. Valencia oranges, however, have been losing ground with a drop of approximately 1,000 acres. Navel oranges have also declined in total acreage between 2022 and 2024. Grapefruit had a small decline in acreage between 2020 and 2023, but saw a slight increase in 2024. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is reminding producers of a new tool that's available to help make it easier to access cattle market information. The USDA's Agricultural Marketing Service has launched a new livestock mandatory reporting live cattle data dashboard. Back in June, USDA announced the pending launch of the new tool, which provides users the ability to view and access live cattle market information in a manner that's easy to use and understand. The dashboard is part of a series of ongoing efforts by AMS to make access to USDA market news information more user-friendly. AMS is also now publishing more detailed reports on the actual premiums and discounts packers pay to cattle producers through formula marketing agreements. The changes are part of AMS's broader efforts to modernize how market data is shared, ensuring that all stakeholders have the information they need to compete effectively. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is setting up a new advisory council under the Growing Climate Solutions Act to help farmers and landowners get involved in carbon credit markets. The new Greenhouse Gas Technical Assistance Provider and Third-Party Verifier Program Advisory Council is seeking nominations for membership. This council, which will have 32 members, aims to make it easier for farmers to participate in these markets by offering verified emissions reductions or removals. The council will review and recommend protocols for generating credits, advise on reducing barriers and costs, and work to ensure these markets are fair and effective. At least 51% of the council will be made up of farmers, ranchers, and private forest landowners. Anyone interested in serving on the council can learn more about candidate qualifications and requirements in the Federal Register. Nominations for the council will remain open until October 15th. Agricultural operations are continuing to try to overcome insurance challenges. Representing the California Cattlemen's Association, Steve Arnold described the issues with fire insurance to the State Board of Food and Agriculture.
We have a winery, a small winery also. But we got a bill 3 years ago. My daughter called me and said, we just got an insurance bill for $32,000. And I said, whoa, call them back, tell them to drop the fire. Went to $1,800. So it dropped from 32 to 1,800. We have a building that is with 3 of them, but they're core tin, concrete underneath them with wine barrels inside of them. I mean, the chances of lighting that on fire with 10 gallons of gas are almost zero, but it just matters if you're in that designation, you're toast. So we now only carry liability on the winery and liability on our ranch because you just can't afford to insure that.
The National Future Farmers of America organization has reached a new milestone with more than 1 million members now participating in the program across the country. The states with the most growth over the last year are Utah, Florida, and Alaska. Notably, Utah saw a massive increase of nearly 173% in members. FFA notes that the organization isn't just for future farmers anymore. It reaches students in both rural and urban areas, encouraging diversity and a wide range of agricultural careers. Top states by membership include Texas, California, Georgia, Florida, and North Carolina. FFA is also gearing up for its 97th National Convention, expecting to beat last year's record attendance of nearly 73,000. With strong community support, FFA continues to grow and help students develop skills like problem solving and teamwork, preparing them for over 350 careers in agriculture. I'm Brian German for AgNet West Radio Network.
How is harvest looking for 2 fall favorites? That's coming up on This Line of Ours. Does this year's harvest indicate plenty of fruit from 2 fall-time favorites, apples and cranberries? Rod Bain looks into it.
Fall fruits are now available at most grocery stores, retail markets, and farmers markets. But what do the crops look like this season? Fleming Gibson of USDA's National Agricultural Statistics Service starts with apples.
Our apple production this season is going to be down 2.2%, very similar to some of our prior years.
The nation's largest apple-producing state, Washington, along with Michigan, each record year-over-year reductions of over 100 million pounds produced, offsetting an increase in New York State apple production. Turning to cranberries.
Production, we're up 1.6%. Massachusetts, the second largest producing state's up 12% compared to the previous year.
The rise in Bay State cranberry production offset a slight decline in what the nation's largest cranberry growing state, Wisconsin, harvested this year. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
You're listening to the AgNet News Hour. This segment is brought to you by Live Earth Products. To get to know a little more about Live Earth Products, we're talking on the phone today with Vice President Russell Taylor. What about humates in animal feed? When can you add humates to the animal feed, and what is the benefit of that?
So the interesting thing about animal feeds is just like the fertilizer side, there's actually a lot going on in legislative processes. So there's an act out called the Innovative Feed Act. And currently, you can't include things in animal feed that are giving you other benefits besides nutritive benefits. Let's say, for example, you had a cow that was eating a product that reduced its methane emissions, those enteric gases that are caused just in the natural digestion of a ruminating cow. You can't claim that those products do that benefit. So hopefully people will get involved and say, look, the Innovative Feed Act is necessary and should help farmers. Other benefits of feeding humate is obviously first to reduce enteric gases. But the second one, these are old plant materials. So those plant materials are rich in trace minerals. So not only are you getting something that's going to help the digestion of the animal, you're also getting an abundant supply of minerals. So that is the main reason farmers are currently including in their animal feeds.
This is all fascinating, but it can be hard to retain some of this information when you're hearing this on the radio or through the podcast. So, is there someplace online, or where can our listeners go and get more information?
Well, the good news is the acts I mentioned, like the Innovative Feed Act and the Plant Biostimulant Act, are publicly available through Congress. You can actually go look at those acts. They're on the website there. The other information you can get is directly through Live Earth products. So if you go to liveearth.com, contact us. You can contact us and our agronomy team. And we're happy to go over any details, questions about how to use these products, how they fit your farm program, how to use them as a tool to implement conservation practices such as nutrient retention, water conservation, and improving soil health.
To get to know more about Live Earth products, you can visit them online at liveearth.com. That is spelled LIVEARTH.com. Some of those connected by the position they held at the Agriculture Department, top economic advisor, recently reconnected through an Agricultural Outlook Forum, with discussions centered on their time at USDA and some of the issues they faced. Rod Bain reveals some of this history of USDA's economic mission area in this edition of Agriculture USA.
A unique view of the U.S. Agriculture Department was provided at this year's Agricultural Outlook Forum, one provided by those who previously served as the department's top economic advisors.
Selfishly, I really was looking forward to this session simply because I get to associate myself with people. Secondly, I'm going to learn a lot about what they've dealt with as chief economist.
I'm Rod Bain. Current Chief Economist Seth Meyer joins us and some of his predecessors within the Agriculture Department as they discuss aspects of the history of the economics mission area of USDA in this edition of Agriculture USA. Agriculture Department Chief Economist Seth Meyer had a distinct honor at the 2024 USDA Ag Outlook Forum, introducing a panel session featuring some of his predecessors in the position. Moderating this prestigious panel was someone with his own unique history within the USDA's economic mission area.
My professional roots run through the Office of Economics. My first job when I got out of undergraduate was a part-time GS5 staff assistant job in the forecast support group of the Economic Research Service, then called ESCS.
Randy Russell would advance to become Chief of Staff and Deputy Agriculture Secretary for Economics during John Block's term as Ag Secretary in the early to mid-1980s.
I think about the most basic functions of the Department of Agriculture. I can think of two. And the first is good basic ag research. But the second is also providing strong economic data, policy analysis, and statistics so that farmers and ranchers and people throughout the value chain can make informed decisions.
Russell's panel consisted of two former USDA chief economists and two of their predecessors.
One of the things that I enjoyed the most after I left was seeing the publications of the research that I requested churn out a year and 2 years after I left USDA.
But whether you're talking to a congressman or a member of the Cattlemen's Association, you've got to realize these are really smart, capable people who don't have enough time, and they want you to give them some information. They also don't want your, at least in my case, your policy opinion. They want your policy analysis.
Those are the voices of former USDA Assistant Secretaries of Economics, Robert Thompson and Dan Sumner. Thompson served in the capacity for 2 years under Agriculture Secretaries John Block and Richard Ling in the mid-1980s, while Sumner was Assistant Secretary for 2 secretaries in the early 1990s, Ed Madigan and Mike Espy. It would be in 1994 under the Agriculture Reorganization Act that the Office of the Chief Economist was established.
The role of chief economist in reviewing all of the cost-benefit analyses is an important role, and I firmly think that if an agency is going to put out a regulation, the public needs to know what its expected costs and benefits are. And I think OCE always has, and still does to this day, do a great job in making sure that that function is done.
Rob Johansson served as chief economist during part of the first term of Secretary Tom Vilsack and during the term of Secretary Sonny Perdue. During the Perdue administration, he also performed duties as acting undersecretary for the then newly established Farm Production and Conservation Mission Area. Johansson is not the only former chief economist to have served double duty.
In 2007, had gone over to the trade rep's office. I was the chief ag negotiator in Geneva, and I was called and I said I wanted to apply for the job for chief economist. Long story is they said, great, you can be chief economist, but you still have to be chief ag negotiator. So for 2008, I had both jobs.
That's Joe Glauber, who served as USDA chief economist under Secretaries Ed Schaefer and Tom Vilsack. Now, if one were to think about the time of service for these former top USDA economic advisors, you could also probably come up with some of the most prominent issues facing agriculture at the time and how they dealt with such matters. From the farm crisis of the 1980s to reorganization of USDA in the 90s to ag trade issues of the past several decades, plus recession and a global pandemic. One area that the current and future agriculture chief economists will work on, according to Randy Russell, establishment of environmental markets.
There's no question we're going to be paying more attention to climate. Whether or not we do it through the sort of programs we've got now, that's not as obvious to me.
This has been Agriculture USA. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey takes a look at the nation's cotton crop.
The cotton crop continues to perform reasonably well despite some extreme heat, especially in Texas over the last week. Now, cotton condition, we did see just a very slight overall decline in the net numbers. That was mostly from a drop in the good to excellent ratings. Current numbers, August 18th, 42% good to excellent, down 4 points from last week. We actually saw a 1 point increase then in the very poor to poor ratings, 26% this week. That's up a point from the previous week. Even with that decline, we're looking better than this time a year ago. Mid-August numbers in 2023 showing just 33% good to excellent and 46% very poor to poor.
This is the AgNet News Hour, and we will be back in just a moment with more agriculture news. Welcome back to the AgNet News Hour. For today's featured interview, I'm talking with USDA Risk Management Agency Administrator Marcia Bunger. There was quite a bit of funds that being given to organizations and outreach efforts. Can you tell me more about the programs and what it's for?
Definitely. So last Thursday, we did the launch of announcing all of these partnerships at my farm in South Dakota. It was a virtual event. We've never done it this way before. We've typically selected a spot or a location with one of the partners. This time, though, we had everyone join virtually, and they were able to then read out a little bit and share what their work is going to look like. And I think it was really, it ended up being a really collaborative way to do this. I know I'm talking more about how the function of how we got it done, but it was really amazing to see everyone sharing in the chat their contact information, because I don't think they've ever realized before all of the other partnership announcements. But like you said, USDA awarded about $4.1 million. This is reaching now, building on the $13 million that we've already done with regards to providing partnerships money so that they can educate underserved areas that maybe have not had access, haven't heard about, are maybe not clear what crop insurance looks like and what it can be. And so from the list, you can see it's quite a wide breadth of locations across the country. And so I think that's exciting. I think it's exciting that we have such diversity with the kinds of partnerships that we are doing, along with the individuals that are responsible for these partnerships.
Yeah, you know what? I really liked what you were saying at the beginning there about the different way of kind of presenting everything this time. And with the diversity of the projects, it probably was really helpful to have them all come on together,
Mhm.
um, and share information and see the different types of programs and things. Let's talk a little bit more about that. I really like that aspect.
No, certainly. So, when we were listening to the different presentations from the individual partners, I quickly put in the chat, please share your contact information with others. And so they quickly did. And so I think it now begins another level of relationship building, because obviously when you're in California, you maybe know of individuals on the East Coast that you would like them to have some information made available to them. And it may not necessarily fit with the partnership that you're doing in California, but there was a number that were also on the East Coast. So it starts to really, I think, enhance exponentially the information, which probably wasn't maybe getting achieved like it was under the more traditional way of me going to a spot, announcing it, and not really having any of the partners aware of all the other partnerships. So there was a number of chatting going on, and names and contact information. And I think it was just really cool to watch people come online and share their their partnership information, but also to feel that energizing spirit, hearing from others as well. And the excitement, I think, started to really build as we went through that hour and a half that we shared together.
And so, as you mentioned, there are projects from pretty much around the nation. About how many states would be benefiting from these?
Well, there's, I think, one or two that are actually nationwide. So I could say honestly that 50 states can be touched by a partnership. Most, though, are more regionalized, which I think lends to that focus of a more personal touch. So just depending upon your operation and what your needs are, it's really important to go to the RMA website and take a look at the news release and see what area you are in, and then reach out and start making that contact as to, well, what does your program look like? How can it help me? This is my operation. These are my questions.
Perfect. And I was going to ask too, kind of along those lines, for somebody who's listening that's involved in a program and thinks, "Hey, my program really does a lot of good work, and we could use some additional funds or some help." Are there more programs coming up or more funding opportunities for others?
Thank you for asking that question. Yes, each and every year we have been making this offer, typically right after the first of the year. So for those organizations, universities, extension service wishing to possibly become a partner, I would encourage you to go to our website after the first of the year and be looking for that announcement. I think what we have really done too that is super cool is there are a number of community-based organizations that just don't have the resources to fund a full-time grant writer. And so part of our partnership announcement includes, if you are eligible, grant writing and grant mentoring assistance. So you are able to compete at a level where there is maybe a university that has full-time grant writers. And so this service is free. And so it not only offers the help of writing the grant, but also making sure that the milestones are met with that partnership. So again, that's just more that I think RMA has really thought outside the box about, with regards to helping not only underserved areas, but probably underserved community-based organizations have an opportunity to get a partnership like this.
Yeah, I can tell you, just from personal experience with the involvement in organizations that I've had, yeah, to have grant writing help like that is huge. So
Mhm, mhm.
that is, I think, going to be extremely beneficial to a lot of organizations.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So to get more information on that, should they just go to the RMA website?
Yes, www.rma.usda.gov and click the link for outreach, and you will see loads of information, more recently now about this announcement, but there's a number of other things that we've just recently added to the website, including a policyholder Bill of Rights. We've also added, it's kind of like what I think of as Crop Insurance 101. So there's a very straightforward 2-page document, I think, that explains what crop insurance is. We also added an agent locator feature for those individuals who are looking for an agent that sells whole farm, micro farm. So as you can hear from me, I'm excited. I'm excited about the efforts that USDA has done over the last couple of years.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you would like for our listeners to know?
You know, I can't think of anything off the top of my head other than what we just recently talked about. Just to really encourage people that have never had crop insurance or maybe are afraid to ask. But now is an opportunity to find a partner that on the website that can maybe help you answer some of those questions and maybe clear up some of the confusion around crop insurance. So go out to the site, take a look, and just contact a couple of those that are in your area.
That again, Risk Management Agency Administrator Marcia Bunger. You are listening to the AgNet News Hour. Summer is almost over, but there's still plenty of time for outdoor grilling and for avoiding some major grilling mistakes. Carrie Crawford has more.
Here's a summer hit song from 1958.
It's summertime, 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 summertime.
Yes, but oh no. Summertime is winding down already. Labor Day's coming. Where did the summer go?
I have no idea. Yeah, I don't know.
That's Meredith Carruthers. She's a food safety expert with the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Meat and Poultry Hotline, the number of which we'll give you in a minute. She does most of the outdoor grilling at her house, and she doesn't let the end of summer stop the cooking. She keeps that grill going, right?
Oh, yeah. We'll grill Labor Day. We'll grill into the fall.
It's an easy way to cook, but she says it's also super easy to make some major grilling goofs that could end up causing you or your guests to get sick. Meredith, for the sake of time, how many of these goofs are we going to cover?
The 3 biggest goofs.
3 biggest goofs, right.
Hey, what happened? Wake up and go to sleep.
I'm a victim of circumstance.
No, not those 3 goofs, but rather 3 common goofs that we make when grilling. The biggest one, Meredith?
I would say the biggest would be not fully cooking the foods on the grill.
Not using a food thermometer to get the meat and poultry up to a high enough temperature in the center to kill any bacteria in there. Next biggest goof.
Using the same utensil that you use to put all the raw stuff on the grill to take the cooked stuff off.
Ooh, or using the same platter on which you took the raw meat and poultry out to the grill to bring the cooked stuff back to be eaten, right?
Yep.
Yep, that raw meat and juices from it could have bacteria in it, which is killed, hopefully, by fully cooking it on the grill, but the bacteria could still be on the platter and the utensils.
So imagine you have raw burgers on a plate, bring them out to the grill, and then when you're done cooking them on the grill, you put them right back on the same plate.
And if the same utensils and plates are not washed or new ones used to bring the cooked meat off the grill, that bacteria goes right back on the food.
That's also a really big goof.
Now for goof number 3, not washing our hands completely before we start food preparation and every time after we've touched any raw meat or poultry and before we touch any other foods, or in fact, Meredith, you say before we touch anything, because You say our hands could have bacteria on them. Our unwashed hands could then contaminate our phones, countertops, spice containers, anything. And here's the scary part.
Certain bacteria can live on surfaces for like 72 hours. So think about it. You're making dinner. You've touched chicken, touched your spice containers without washing your hands. And then in the morning, you're cooking eggs and you want to use the same spice in your eggs. Then that gets all touched other places. So yeah, it's just crazy what your hands can move around.
So those are the three biggest grilling goofs. There are more. If you have questions about grilling or any food safety subject, use your clean hands to call Meredith and the other experts of the Meat and Poultry Hotline. Here's the number, 1-888-MP-HOTLINE, or by the numbers 1-888-674-6854. The experts are on live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, or you can do live chat at ask.usda.gov. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Thank you, Gary. I'm Sabrina Halverson. Thank you for sharing your morning with us.
To get more information on the topics you heard today, visit AgNet West online at agnetwest.com. You can also stay connected by following us on our social media at AgNet West on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also find our broadcast team of Brian German and Sabrina Halverson on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for listening to the AgNet News Hour from AgNet West. AgNet West Radio Network, your primary choice for agriculture news.